Um, that's that's a hard thing for me to say, because when you're creating it, yeah, you kind of hope you.
This is it.
Um, that part I don't know, but this is I. It's very difficult to say. I know exactly what people were like, but other one was. Girls Got Rhythm. Those two tracks we'd had in the first couple of weeks, but it was that weekend we ended up.
When it comes to rock and roll, few names are as fiercely uncompromising as Angus Young of ACDC. Known for his blistering guitar solos, schoolboy outfit, and electrifying stage presence, Angus embodies the raw spirit of hard rock. But behind the riffs and thunder lies a brutally honest critic. Someone who isn't afraid to call out the giants of rock if he feels they've lost their way. While many artists tiptoe around each other out of mutual respect, Angus has never held back. Whether it's punk pioneers or stadium-filling glam gods, he's delivered scathing reviews that challenge the status quo. In this video, we're diving into the most shocking things Angus Young has said about some of the biggest names in music. From Led Zeppelin to the Rolling Stones, nothing was off limits. If you think rock legends are untouchable, think again. Because Angus Young has something to say, and it hits just as hard as his guitar.
The other one was Girls Got Rhythm. Those two tracks we'd had in the first couple of weeks, but it was that weekend we ended up, Friday and into the Monday, and we came out with all of the tracks that you got, So, all in all, from that point on, and we had actually been working with there was another guy we'd been working with, but that's the reason why we went on really in the weekend we went into work, because we.
For Angus Young, rock and roll has always been about one thing: raw, unfiltered energy. He doesn't care for fancy effects, elaborate setups, or musical showboating. In his view, the foundation of true rock lies in simplicity, grit, and passion. Angus believes in keeping things grounded: plug in, play loud, and connect with the crowd. He doesn't need fireworks or face paint to command attention. His guitar does all the talking. That's why he's often critical of bands that stray too far from the basics, prioritizing image or overcomplication. This unwavering commitment to the roots of rock has defined ACDC's entire career and explains why Young is so outspoken against trends like glam rock, overproduced ballads, and genre hopping. For Angus, real music doesn't need to prove itself. It needs to punch you in the gut and leave a mark. That's the yardstick he uses to measure every band, no matter how legendary they might be.
In actually Miami, in a rehearsal room, and I think probably this may sound strange, but we went in on a Friday, and we had been there like a couple of weeks, but one weekend we had not really done weekends. We kind of worked for the week and said, okay, we'll take Saturday.
While the Ramones revolutionized punk with their raw sound and minimalist aesthetic, Angus Young wasn't buying the hype. To him, punk wasn't a rebellion, it was a regression. He believed bands like the Ramones were just rehashing what groups like the Small Faces had already done years earlier. In his own words, Angus dismissed the Ramones by saying, "I heard one song and it did nothing for me. It felt like my first band when I was 12. Which was better?" Ouch. His main gripe wasn't just about the sound, but the lack of musical skill. He argued punk musicians used attitude as a crutch, often masking their lack of technical ability. While the rest of the world saw punk as fresh and revolutionary, Angus viewed it as undercooked and unpolished. For a guitarist who prided himself on precision and power, punk rock felt like a noisy shortcut, and the Ramones just didn't make the cut. Kiss might be known for face paint, fire-breathing, and stadium-filling shows. But to Angus Young, they were all style and no soul. While both Kiss and ACDC emerged as major forces in the hard rock scene, Angus made it clear that their philosophies couldn't be more different. He criticized Kiss for relying on gimmicks rather than musical talent. From the costumes to the pyrotechnics, Angus saw it all as a distraction from weak songwriting and average performances. In fact, ACDC once turned down a joint tour with Kiss, feeling the bands were a poor match musically. Gene Simmons later confirmed it. ACDC walked away because they didn't respect Kiss's flashy image. Angus believes that if your music needs smoke and mirrors to keep people entertained, then it's simply not strong enough. Real rock, in his mind, doesn't need a costume. It needs riffs that shake the ground. And in that department, Kiss fell short.
We had I think a couple of days, 2 days with him in a little rehearsal place, and then from that point, we were into the studio, and it was a case of just getting the sound together. And then once we got the sound, you get into the songs, and so it went quite rapidly. So that was good. Yeah.
Angus Young's beef with Deep Purple goes way beyond musical taste. It's personal. After a sour encounter between AC/DC and Deep Purple's road crew at the Sunbury Festival, Angus's already lukewarm opinion turned into outright disdain. He once attended a Deep Purple concert, paid for the ticket, and walked away disgusted, calling it ridiculous. His biggest issue? Over-the-top theatrics and what he saw as an inflated reputation. He even went so far as to call them a poor man's Led Zeppelin, slamming their attempt at grandeur as a pale imitation of a better band. While Deep Purple is celebrated for its virtuosic playing and complex arrangements, Angus found their performances soulless and bloated. He felt they lacked the raw, gritty authenticity that real rock required. For a guy who believes in stripping music down to its essence, Deep Purple's elaborate compositions and stagecraft were the exact opposite of what rock should be.
And I was so sorry because I had it for years, and I used to, when I was younger and then played with the people and everything, I got that amp, played that amp, or even played live in some places. And anyone who heard that amp used to always come up and say, "I'll trade you for that amp." They all wanted to swap. I was even offered, like Marshalls or something.
You'd think a fellow hard rock titan like Led Zeppelin would earn Angus Young's respect, but you'd be wrong. While most fans worship Zeppelin's epic performances and groundbreaking sound, Angus was deeply unimpressed by their live shows. After attending one of their concerts, he famously said, "They played for 3 hours, but for 2.5, they bored the audience." According to him, the endless solos and drawn-out jams turned concerts into tedious marathons. He admitted the band had talent, but felt they used it to self-indulge rather than ignite real energy. For Angus, rock shows should hit like a freight train, fast, loud, and full of adrenaline. He didn't care for long interludes or instrumental showboating. Zeppelin's complex, improvisational style clashed with his belief in straightforward, high-voltage rock. To Angus, they weren't carrying rock forward. They were getting lost in their own echo chamber. And that, he felt, was the ultimate sin.
Nearby, locally, and he said to me, they got Angus, he said, they got some great guitars in there, they got some Les Pauls and whatnot. But he said to me, but they got this really, you're gonna love it, he says, they got a really hot SG, really good, he said. So I went to that shop, And he said, try all the other ones. I did, I went through. And he said, no, I picked up the SG and I went, this is mine. This.
Though he never targeted Bon Jovi by name, Angus Young's disdain for glam metal is no secret. He viewed the 1980s glam scene, dominated by bands like Bon Jovi, Mötley Crüe, and Poison, as everything wrong with modern rock. To him, these bands were all about hair, makeup, and radio-friendly anthems, with none of the grit or authenticity that defined true rock and roll. Songs like Living on a Prayer may have topped charts, but Angus saw them as polished products rather than passionate performances. ACDC, by contrast, built their sound on raw riffs and bluesy aggression, no synthesizers, no fluff. While glam metal bands leaned into style and marketability, ACDC stayed grounded in stripped-down musicianship. Angus didn't see the glam movement as an evolution. He saw it as a sellout. In his world, if your song sounds like it was built for commercials, it doesn't belong in the Rock Hall of Fame.
This is it.
That part I don't know, but this is, it's very difficult to say I know exactly what people were like. But I trust my own belly kind of, it's something I had from a younger age. What I want to hear, what I want to hear. When I'm sitting in a car, I want to hear something come on that radio and I want to go, what's going on here? I get that volume up, Yeah. That's what what I aim for. And with ACDC, that's how I always kind of thought, My older brother used to always say, he would do this. He would get a cassette, and whenever we did play something, he'd get in that car, and then he would, after we'd been in the studio, he'd run back what we had done, even if it was just jams and stuff, and then he would go, he would get you and put it on, and he'd go, listen to this, and he'd go, whoa, and he'd get excited, he goes, you imagine when somebody on the radio, they put that on, and if it's going to make you excited, and that's always what I go for. I like music that's exciting and catches my ear straight away. So that's always what my prize is to go for.
Angus Young didn't mince words when it came to the Rolling Stones. In a 1977 interview, he slammed them for drifting away from their rock roots and dabbling in soul and R&B. While fans praised the Stones for evolving musically, Angus saw it as a betrayal. The Rolling Stones get up and play soul music these days. This is supposed to be rock and roll, he declared. He felt their genre hopping diluted the raw energy that once made them great. Angus even added that soul should be left to those who originated it, saying, "Leave that to the people who do it best, the black people." To him, the Stones lost their way when they tried to be everything to everyone. He believed they were most powerful when they stuck to what they knew. Bluesy, hard-hitting rock. Anything else, he felt, was trying too hard. And in rock, trying too hard was fatal.
He did, a riff, and that's what I used to say. I don't know how you conjure them up. I really, because the first time I ever heard that, he done that on an acoustic guitar, and he put it on a cassette, and we were touring, doing Highway to Hell, and he came in my room and he said, I'm clearing, because he wanted to clear, he'd filled up so many cassettes with riffs and stuff, and he was wanting to, go over some of them, and he was wanting.
Angus Young has always been allergic to musical trends. Whether it's disco, glam metal, or synth pop, he's never been tempted to ride the wave for fame or sales. While many bands adjusted their sound to stay relevant, ACDC held their ground. And that resistance came from Angus. He viewed trends as distractions from the core of rock: loud guitars, heavy drums, and honest lyrics. While other artists chased chart positions, Angus chased a feeling, the kind of gut punch only raw rock could deliver. That's why ACDC never veered into ballads, concept albums, or electronic experimentation. Their formula was simple, and that's what made it powerful. Angus believed that chasing trends was the fastest way to lose your identity. In a music world obsessed with reinvention, he made a case for reliability. You always knew what to expect from ACDC. And that predictability was, paradoxically, their boldest move.
Yeah, it is. It's surprisingly well. And it just stuck with me ever since, because I really remember this. But thinking and talking about this thing about that it is difficult to anticipate what the listeners will like. Are there some works in your back catalog where you're pleasantly surprised, looking back at it and saying, oh, they like this album so much? Wow, this is nice. Like, sometimes does it catch up to you? Like, a guy like me, born in 1980, he sits with this album as the first one that he ever kissed a girl to. Is it surprising to you that some of these albums have just lasted a lifetime now?
Critics often bash AC/DC for being repetitive, but Angus Young wears that label like a badge of honor. In his eyes, consistency isn't laziness. It's loyalty to the essence of rock and roll. While bands like the Rolling Stones, Metallica, or U2 have experimented with different styles over the decades, AC/DC has stayed true to its original formula. Angus believes that if something works and connects with fans, there's no reason to change it. Reinvention, to him, is often a mask for confusion or desperation. By sticking to their guns, AC/DC built a global fan base that spans generations, all without compromising their identity. Angus argues that the music industry pressures artists to evolve for the sake of novelty, not artistry. But real strength lies in doing what you do best, over and over again, until you master it. And in that sense, AC/DC didn't stagnate. They sharpened their blade to perfection. At the heart of Angus Young's criticism lies a deep respect for simplicity. In his world, the greatest rock songs don't need complex arrangements, orchestras, or philosophical lyrics. They need a riff that grabs you by the collar and doesn't let go. That's why he built AC/DC around thunderous guitars, punchy drums, and unforgettable hooks. His disdain for overly technical or theatrical bands isn't just about taste. It's about legacy. Angus believes the bands that endure are the ones who cut through the noise and speak directly to your gut. He's not interested in being called a musical genius. He's interested in being remembered. And by sticking to a straightforward, no-frills approach, he made sure AC/DC's music was accessible, timeless, and unforgettable. His criticisms of other bands serve as a warning. Don't get lost in your own reflection. Because in the end, the simplest things leave the deepest marks.
That's a hard thing for me to say, because when you're creating it, you kind of hope you strike that chord, with people. You hope that somewhere when you make an album, somebody's gonna go, they hear something and they go, wow, it means something to them, It just strikes a chord. So we've been, I would call it maybe good luck in a way that we've been able to do that. And the thing is, a lot of what goes in those albums, when we were younger, and that's where a lot of it all goes back to. At that point, like.
Angus Young may be best known for his wild on-stage antics and iconic guitar licks. But behind the music is a rock purist who holds nothing back. His sharp criticisms of fellow rock legends aren't rooted in jealousy. They're born from a deep love for the genre and a refusal to let it be diluted. Whether you agree with him or not, you can't deny his unwavering passion. In a world where artists often play it safe, Angus speaks his truth, even if it ruffles feathers. His standards are high, but so is his integrity. And in a music industry driven by trends, image, and commercial appeal, that kind of honesty is rare. Love him or hate him, Angus Young has never pretended to be anything but himself. And maybe that's the most rock and roll thing of all. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Rock on, and we'll see you next time.